What's up, Undisputed listeners? It's your boy, Sharpe. I wanted to tell you about my new podcast, Club Shay, where we always do something before two something. Each week, I sit down with a guest for a drink and conversation, and as host and proprietor of Club Shay, I've welcomed in esteemed guests such as Snoop Dogg, Floyd Money Mayweather, LeVar Ball, Isaiah Thomas, just to mention a few. Whether I'm talking to an athlete, a musician, an actor, or a lifelong friend, Club Shay is a place where people share inspiring and motivational stories about their journeys to prominence. The new episode drops every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Club Shay now and make sure you never miss a new episode. Now back to Undisputed.
Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. We've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon. Let's get to it.
Welcome to Undisputed Live from Los Angeles. I'm Jason McIntyre here with LeVar Arrington and Chris Broussard. Good morning, guys. I have no idea what we're talking about today.
That's all right. We're going to know when we know, and we're going to do it like we do it, like we're doing it for TV. Chris Broussard.
Wow, I can't follow that up, so I'll just say, what's up, fellas? Let's do this.
All right, guys. Before yesterday, the Lakers hadn't lost 3 consecutive games since August, but the Lakers continued to struggle without AD, and last night, oh boy, the Wizards stormed back from a 17-point deficit in the second half to defeat the Lakers in overtime with 9 seconds left to end the game. LeBron missed the go-ahead free throw on a 3-point play opportunity. LeBron played all but 1 minute and 6 seconds of the fourth quarter and overtime. And after the game, he said, quote, I think this whole narrative of LeBron needs more rest, or I should take more rest, or I should take time here. It's become a lot bigger than what it actually is. I've never talked about it. I don't talk about it. I don't believe in it. Chris Broussard, clearly LeBron was watching this show yesterday. Is LeBron James losing his MVP case during this 3-game slide?
Well, first, let me give a little consolation to Lakers fans, including you, J-Mac. Relax, all right? They lost 4 straight games midway through last season at one point. They lost 5 of 8 in the bubble, and we know how that season ended up. So let's relax and not overreact to a midseason swoon. As far as MVP race, LeBron has lost his lead. And I said on these airwaves last week that this stretch without AD, LeBron would either increase his lead and get a sizable advantage in the MVP race, or he would come back to the pack. And he's come back to the pack clearly. Now, this doesn't mean his case is over. There are 40 games left. And, you know, a lot is to happen, not only with the Lakers, but with other teams, other guys that are in this MVP hunt. So, no, his case is not over, but he no longer has the lead. All right, if I had to vote today, it would be Joel Embiid, and I'll get into some of the other candidates a little bit later. But LeBron has lost his lead, and it's not so much because he hasn't played. Well, we can pick apart, you know, some things he did last night. He missed a free throw at the end of the game. I think he had a botched defensive assignment that he missed late in the game. Obviously didn't shoot well from 3, but that's one game. LeBron has averaged 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists on 51% shooting during this 5-game stretch in which they've lost 4 or 5. The only place he's struggled, and it's bad, is from 3-point range. He's shooting 15%. But anyone that has watched LeBron's career, you know, he's a good shooter. He's a solid shooter. He's a streaky shooter. He's not a great shooter. And so him shooting 38% from 3, as he was doing for the first 2 months of the season, he actually shot 43% from 3 in January. You knew that wouldn't last. He was going to come back to the pack, and that's what's happened this month. So now he's at about 35%. His career is 34% from 3. So he's just come back to the mean. But the reason he no longer has the lead is not just, not individual play so much as it is the winning. And we know the MVP award, I'm one of the media voters, it is tied to winning. Since the media have been voting for MVP since 1981, only twice has a player won it with fewer than 50 wins in a full season. That was Moses Malone in 1982 and Russell Westbrook the year he averaged a triple-double. If he doesn't get that triple-double, he doesn't get the MVP award. So your stats have to be otherworldly to win the MVP award if your team is kind of middle of the road in terms of a playoff race. So it's going to come down to wins. And the Lakers are third in the West right now, and they still have a better record than Philadelphia. But LeBron's individual play has been very good, but it hasn't been otherworldly. It hasn't been so much better than other individual players that he's going to be able to withstand a losing streak like this and win MVP. So right now, he's lost his lead, but there's a lot of room left for him to regain it again.
There is a lot of room left for him to regain some of that swag that will put him in the race. I'm not a voter, obviously, and I've been made very clear that I'm a football player that shouldn't be talking basketball, but I am going to talk basketball, people. You know why? Because I know basketball. I know it very well. And looking at this game, give Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook a ton of credit. Both outscored LeBron in this game. They're going up against some quality guys during this stretch. So LeBron James, although did well, right, 31 points, played well, I'm looking at this as it's going to be the stretch run. As you mentioned, Broussard, there's a whole lot of basketball to be played. I believe if LeBron James can show the stamina to close, to, as they say in track, to have that kick, if he kicks, then you're going to see why LeBron James should be the MVP of this league over a Joel Embiid, over some of these other guys out here that we're looking at. Maybe a James Harden is in the conversation, a couple other guys that we can look at. Giannis is always a perennial MVP selection. But to me, when I look at LeBron James has enough built-in equity, built-up equity, that for him to have some slip-ups right now, it will come down to them being able to win games, how well he plays without AD, and can he finish strong during the course of this regular season. Mac, that's to me, I think that's the key to him getting the MVP is showing late.
You know, LeVar, I don't want to start on like a negative tone. I'm a very positive guy in 2021, but Chris Broussard is wrong. Joel Embiid is not the MVP right now. It's still LeBron. Let me take a moment to say LeBron had 31, 13, and 9 last night, okay?
Good numbers.
How do you lose an MVP award in February when you have 31, 13, and 9? And defensively, he's guarding Russell Westbrook, who is still a blur in the open court. You got to chase him around.
How'd that work out?
Chris, it's just so difficult to ask LeBron, hey, LeBron, we need you to lead us in scoring. Hey, LeBron, you need to also set everybody up offensively and have 13 assists because you know what? Dennis Schroeder's out. And, you know, you got to set up Caruso and pass the ball to all these guys. And then, oh, yeah, you have to play a lot of defense. Joel Embiid, by the way, Chris, you omitted this from his candidacy. Joel Embiid has missed 6 games already. He's on pace to miss 13 or 14 games. So now we're in a condensed season of 72 games. Embiid's probably going to miss 13 or 14, and we're still going to hand him the award because the Sixers, with a damn good roster, I mean, he's playing alongside Ben Simmons, okay? Ben Simmons ain't missing 4 weeks. And now you want to give Joel Embiid the MVP in February? Chris, I'm sorry, you're wrong, okay? Ric Bucher beat you up yesterday. I'm not coming in that hot, okay? LeBron is still the MVP. He is the best player in the league. And Chris, you're going to love this stat, okay? LeBron was watching us yesterday, right? Because we talked about his minutes. In the month of February, he's leading the NBA in assists. And I'm sorry, in minutes played. LeBron's leading the NBA in minutes played. And I looked this up, okay? Top 25 minutes played per game in the league. Nobody over the age of 31 except LeBron James, who's 36. Put some respect on his name. He's an old man playing a young man's game, and he's still dominating at the highest level. LeBron, still the MVP of the NBA.
LeBron James.
J-Mac, you tickle me. All right, that was cute. That was nice. All right, just stop it. All right, I didn't give the award to Joel Embiid. I said there's 40 games left to be played. I said if I had to vote right now, it would be Embiid. And I know you've been watching me. You watched me last week, and you saw me say the reason I had LeBron ahead of Embiid was because Embiid had missed so many games. And if he misses too many games, he's not going to win the MVP award. So you took my take and repackaged it in your own little style and flavor and tried to throw it back in my face. All right? I caught you. I'm watching you, J-Mac. No, look, It's close. It's wide open. This is an odd year. You know, last year Milwaukee ran away with the best record, and so that helped Giannis, win his case and win it early, all right? But this year, coming off of 2 MVP awards and 2 back-to-back bad playoff performances for Giannis and his Bucks, that is going to weigh into people's minds. I know it's a regular season award. Last year's playoffs shouldn't factor in, but it will, because people are like, look, we're going to have to see you do it in the regular season for us to give you that award, or in the playoffs for us to give you that award again, unless they went on a 70-win pace again like they did last year, and they're not. The Milwaukee Bucks are not having a great season win-wise, so Giannis is not where he usually is in the race. Nikola Jokic, they're 7th in the West at Denver. He's playing great individually, but you can't give it to him because there's a 7th seed. Steph, they're the 8th seed. He's not getting it. Damian Lillard is in the race. We'll see if Portland can continue to play well and win some games. But Embiid, LeBron, Kawhi Leonard, now he has missed 7 games, and J-Mac, missing games is an issue. All right, if you miss too many, you won't get the award. But right now, I'd still have Embiid and Kawhi firmly in the race. But here's the guy, and you mentioned him, LeVar, and I was surprised you mentioned him because I don't think most people are even thinking that way. James Harden. James Harden right now is the Brooklyn Nets MVP. And if they go on a tear, they're already on a tear. If they continue to play this way and really put a ton of distance between themselves and Philadelphia or whoever the 2nd seed is in the East, and they just run through the league in the second half of the season, and Harden plays virtually every game and continues to do what he's doing, he is going to have to merit serious consideration for the MVP because there's nobody in the league playing better. All right, he's orchestrating the offense. He is leading the league in assists. He's still giving you 25 points a night. He's working hard on defense. He's leading the Nets in rebounding, leading them in PR, and his selflessness to move to a different position, to give up 8 to 10 shots a game that he was averaging in Houston and be selfless has spread throughout that lineup. And now they're sharing the ball like never before. Defensively, the other guys are working hard on that end because of Harden's sacrifice. So he's a guy that's going to have to start being named in this MVP race. And I'm not going to hold the way he left Houston against him. It was ugly. I didn't like it. But he did what he had to do to get out of there. Nobody holds it against Anthony Davis and some of these other players that have done that. So Harden's a guy that people should keep in the back of their mind for the time being for MVP.
You brought up the equity of having poor performances against Giannis in the playoffs. And I'm glad you brought that up because, again, now if you have to use that thought process, which I firmly agree with you on that, you have to look at Joel Embiid as well as someone who comes up short when it gets to crunch time during the course of a season. So if we're judging Giannis based off of that criteria, coming up short and not being dominant when he needs to be, you have to judge Joel at least probably even more so stringent than you would on Giannis because Giannis at least has the credibility and the build-up equity of already winning the award. So when I hear you talk about Harden, and I did mention Harden very briefly, but when you look at what he's been able to overcome and where he's at right now, and you compare that to what some of these other guys are doing, and obviously the topic being focused in on has LeBron lost the race, I do not think that LeBron has lost the race of being the MVP of this NBA, the league, golly. So, and the reason why I feel as though he's still in it, again, I'm going to just bounce off of it, is the equity play of LeBron James. I do believe it is important that the team continue to find ways to be resilient with all those guys out. But if they can win games, I would say an average LeBron James, above average, just above to average LeBron James, is a league MVP over all the names that we just mentioned because of the built-in equity, because of what we know of LeBron James, and we know what he delivers, we know what he brings to the table. So for him to play at a high enough level and get this team through at a winning clip, I think you have to take a strong look at LeBron.
LeVar, you're a big, strong guy. You were in the NFL. You know those old competitions where the strong men would try to tow a truck? Mm-hmm. They put a rope around them. Mm-hmm. LeBron is basically putting the rope around him and towing the Lakers. No Anthony Davis, no Dennis Schroeder. LeBron is that guy towing the entire team around the finish line. And Chris, I know you mentioned Harden, but I want to focus on LeBron for a second. When you look at a player in the league who impacts the game more than anybody else, from setting up the offense, scoring, whether it's getting to the free throw line, improving your three-point shot, it's undeniable that nobody in the NBA impacts a game and a team more than LeBron. Yeah, Luka Doncic and Steph Curry, they're definitely up there, and Harden would probably be my number 2. But when you focus on LeBron and everything he does, you watched that game last night, and it's crazy that this is an old man out there really organizing everything on the court for the Lakers. They got nobody. I mean, seriously, down the stretch, Marc Gasol and Alex Caruso on the floor the entire time? I mean, it's almost laughable how weak this Lakers roster looks when you take away their second and third best players. And Kuzma was hit and miss last night, and Montrezl Harrell was okay for spurts. But this was an entire LeBron performance. Late in the shot clock, fourth quarter, who they got? Well, it's LeBron. And now, LeBron, you know what? I know you're gassed. You've played over 40 minutes for, the 5th time in the last couple weeks? Yeah, we need you to go to the free throw line and ice the game. And we need you to chase Russell Westbrook at the very end of the game and get a stop. At some point, Chris, we need to understand the totality of what LeBron's doing and how he impacts the game. And I know we've been saying this for 15 years and a lot of people are tired of it, but it's incredible that he's still doing it at such a high level.
J-Mac, I think we understand that. I mean, nobody impacts a game like LeBron James. Nobody controls the tempo, both for his own team and the other team, the opponent, like LeBron James. That goes without saying. But we're not just giving you the award for effort. I mean, earlier you mentioned minutes. So I'm supposed to give him the MVP award for minutes? Really?
Well, he's actually playing, unlike your guy, Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's sitting out games.
Oh, wow.
LeBron's on the court.
And look, if Embiid misses too many, same with Kawhi Leonard, I said that's going to be a factor. But minutes played is not going to, because if he wants to play 38 minutes a night, I'm not going to really factor that in heavily to my MVP vote. And you mentioned all he did last night. Look, LeBron was very good, but they lost to a 11-win team? I mean, I'm just saying, J-Mac, I love LeBron. LeBron is awesome. LeBron is right there with the other leaders in the MVP race. But if we're going to we can throw out a lot of players who put forth great effort and try their darndest but lose. It's about winning. And you got to win games if you're going to win the MVP award.
Well, I'll add this. I look at LeBron James and what he's doing. You don't get MVP awards as door prizes, and I agree with that. But what I will say is the dominance that he's still exercising and showing us, the brilliance of how he plays. A lot of times I feel like people are LeBron James groupies. And I feel like sometimes we overstate what we feel about LeBron James because there's this underlying current of always trying to have the debate of, is he the greatest ever, without having the debate. I always feel like when we talk about LeBron, we are always trying to figure out, is there a justification of him being the greatest ever or not? And so in some cases, we look at LeBron James and he's really unjustly judged for the brilliance that he does exhibit and the brilliance that he brings, because it's always one of those things. As an athlete, we're always told, if you set the bar, if you go out there and you practice hard and you do this much in practice, that becomes your new norm, right? You can't go underneath that new norm. So if you ran 50 yards when you ran the ball as a running back, if you touched off the guy when you're tackling, but then the next practice, you don't do those things, you don't run 50 yards, you don't touch the guy off, you're judged off of that. You're based off of that. And I think the most interesting thing about LeBron James when we had these debates about, is he still the MVP? How do we feel about LeBron James? LeBron James is playing at an MVP level. But when we look at LeBron James, we're looking at LeBron James and we're talking, is LeBron James playing at an MVP level based off of LeBron James setting this as the standard? And so sometimes I think his success can ultimately be a factor that plays against him because we're so used to seeing a dominant LeBron James. And when we've seen those MVP years, you see such a dominant guy that if he doesn't live up to that type of expectation, are we basing what we feel about LeBron James off of what we've seen from him? Or are we basing LeBron James off of what he's doing and how that compares to the other players in this league? And I think that that's sometimes the hardest differentiator when you're having conversations about LeBron, J-Mac.
I mean, the other reason, Chris, I bring up minutes is because you remember 2 years ago when LeBron got to L.A. He's playing with Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram, and LeBron tried to do everything, and he really pushed the minutes heavily. And he got injured, okay? If that happens again, you could just forget about the season. The Lakers are toast. And that's why the minutes to me and the games played are important. Because the last time he tried this, when he had no supporting cast, he broke down. And we like to talk about LeBron as an Iron Man, a hero. You know, he is all those things. But I think you said it best yesterday, Father Time undefeated. And if LeBron keeps pushing, they got a game Wednesday against Utah. And you got to hear the narratives everywhere for the next 24 hours. Oh, LeBron, he's losing the MVP. Lakers in trouble. LeBron's going to go push hard against a Utah team that's better than the Lakers at full strength. They're at full strength, obviously. Utah, I believe, has the best record in the league, Chris, okay? They just got beat up by the Clippers out here. They hit 28 three-pointers last night, a franchise record against LaMelo Ball and company. The Jazz are going to come out and try to put it to the Lakers. And if LeBron's pushing 35, 40 minutes again and trying to get another win just to prove that he can win the MVP, this will not end well for the Lakers. I told you this yesterday, that the Lakers are headed toward GameStop territory. They are cratering right now. Yikes. It's going to get ugly. Schroeder may come back Friday. But LeBron just, there's no need to force the issue here in the end of February, okay? We got a long All-Star break coming up. LeBron, there's a lot of season left. There are the playoffs extended into July this year. I don't think he needs to force the issue Wednesday in Utah. I mean, Chris, are you going to say Utah is now a must-win game for the Lakers to end the skid and LeBron should play 40 minutes, damn the future, get that win on Wednesday?
Get the win, but not
First, the Lakers are going to lose, all right? They're going to lose, all right? Okay. And a must-win with 40 games left, no, it's not a must-win. I talked about last year. Remember they looked bad in the bubble? I remember being on Undisputed last year and saying the Lakers can't shoot threes and they can't stop threes during the bubble. That's what it looked like. Obviously, they turned it around come playoff time, and LeBron turned it on come playoff time. That's that guy, playoff LeBron. So it's far from a must-win. We're strictly talking MVP award. And no, look, getting to the minutes. LeBron knows his body as well as any athlete in America not named Tom Brady. All right, or better than any athlete not named Tom Brady. So I feel like I should just trust him. All right, he's got his personal trainer. He's got his personal masseuse. Like we know he spends $1.5 million a year on his body. I'm sure his people close to him would be telling him, look, you don't need to push it like this if you want to make it through the season and be ready for the playoffs. So I lean toward trusting LeBron. But, you know, history tells us it's at some point Father Time's coming for him. Look, Kobe Bryant in his 17th year averaged 38 minutes a game. It was his last full season. Karl Malone at age 38 averaged 38 minutes a game. Michael Jordan at age 39/40, he turned 40 during that season with the Wizards, averaged 38 minutes a game and played all 82. So there are guys that have done this, but they weren't carrying their teams like LeBron is right now. So I want to trust him. Obviously, none of us want to see him break down and like he did a couple years ago with the groin injury or not be ready or at full, speed come playoff time. And I don't think anybody wants that more than LeBron. So I got to think he's going to be smart with his body and not overextend himself.
2 quick points. One, when you're losing it's always a must-win to stop a losing streak. So maybe it's not a must-win to make the playoffs. Maybe it's not a must-win to be the MVP. But LeBron James, as a leader, is looking at this as a must-win. It certainly is, because you never want to keep losing. You never want to create the habit or create the thought of losing becoming a norm in your locker room. That's one. Two, and this is more off topic, but relevant. In NASCAR, they do diagnostic reports, check the exhaust, check the engine, the pistons, the steering, all that stuff that makes the car run. If I'm paying that amount of money to make sure that my car is on the track running, speaking of LeBron's body, I don't need them telling me what I can't or what I shouldn't do if I'm paying you $1 million plus. You should be having my body where I could go 100 miles an hour. You know, in them NASCAR races, they go like over 200 miles an hour because of the way they keep them cars. And you know what? You can't sit there and say, don't go 200 miles an hour with the car today, because you know what? We ain't going to make it through the race if we go 200 miles an hour. You paying that amount of money, you better be telling LeBron James you could go 200 miles an hour in every game. That's all I'm saying.
No mercy.
Hey, Undisputed listeners, I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com. Reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead, download the new app right now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports, plus a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, are just one click away. For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. Download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com.
Hey, Undisputed listeners, it's Charlotte Wilder here to tell you about my new podcast with Mark Titus called the People Sports Podcast. It comes out every Thursday, and Mark and I take one of the big stories of the week, and then we go off on tangents you never saw coming. This might mean that we start talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series and end up wondering if Knicks fans deserve happiness. Or begin with LeBron's greatness and end up drafting our ultimate beer league softball team made up of old athletes. Whatever it is, the only rule of the show is that it has to be fun and funny, because these days we could all use as many laughs as we can get. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts and come down weird sports rabbit holes with us. We can't wait to have you.
Cam Newton is set to become an unrestricted free agent in the coming weeks, and many believe the former league MVP is on his way out of New England. Although much has been made about Cam's relationship with Bill Belichick, Cam had nothing but praise for the coach this week when he was on Brandon Marshall's podcast. He expressed just how much he respected and admired Belichick, saying, quote, "He's the most misunderstood person in all of sports. He dope as bleep. He is a cool dude." LeVar, should Cam and Belichick reunite for a redemption season?
Hey, reunite and it feels so good. Reunited just like I knew they should. Yes, they should reunite, and I've been saying this, so I'm going to double down on it and say it again today. The reason why they should double down is familiarity. The reason why they should double down is opportunity. We look at Cam, and people are so committed to saying that Cam has no more toothpaste in the tube. I don't see it that way. I see it as, okay, Cam did work hard on the offseason to try to get himself together and be ready for the season. But Cam was working to get on a team. Cam was not working being a part of a team and having a real offseason in terms of growing and building a part of a team. He's built a foundation. Whether people want to like it or not, Cam has built a foundation in New England. New England has some pieces and some holes that they needed to fill, and no one knows that better than Bill Belichick, all right? So when I look at the situation with Cam, give him an opportunity to come back, have a real offseason, have real preparation. He gets to learn more of the playbook. I don't know how much of the playbook he used this season, but it probably wasn't as much as it could have been. Why? Because of the time commitment that was there, or the lack of time, I should say. So for me, I look at Cam, that translation of what he's saying is, I love Bill Belichick. I want to go back and play for Bill Belichick. I want to have an opportunity to do better for Bill Belichick. Whether that ends up being a starting role or a fill-in, a sub role, that can be determined on the field. But I think that this is a good marriage, and I think that you can get great results from it moving forward into year 2 versus what had to be rushed and crammed in year 1.
Well, LeVar, I'm still thinking that Cam is thinking starting role. Now, he may have to adjust his mindset to accept being a backup. I'm surprised you brought up that possibility with New England. But I'm thinking of him right now. He wants to go somewhere and start. And I'm going to look at it from both sides. From Cam's side, of course he wants to go back to New England because, let's face it, that might be his only option. Let's not forget that a year ago, before he even had this subpar season, nobody was interested in him. That's why New England got him for so cheap. That's why they got him so late. All right, so Cam may not have another option but to go back to Belichick. And so for him, yes, let's run it back by all means. And I do think he genuinely liked Bill Belichick. I think Belichick genuinely liked Cam. And I do think there are things you can point to, LeVar, that would suggest maybe Cam can be a little better. I said yesterday, I don't think he's going to prove doubters wrong. I don't think he's going to have a Pro Bowl season, anything like that. But could he be a little bit better? Sure, if they get some more weapons, because they gave him no weapons at the skill position, just like they didn't for Tom Brady the year before. So if they want to shore up their weapons, that would help Cam. We know that was Tom Brady's offense. And sure, they adjusted it a bit to Cam, more runs for the quarterback, certainly in the red zone, things like that. But it still wasn't fully based around Cam Newton. It still was a new offense for him to adjust to. And as you said, he really had no offseason preparation. The other thing is COVID. Remember, before he came down with COVID, they were 2-1. They had beat the Raiders. They had beat the Dolphins. Those are 2 pretty good teams. And they had barely lost to Seattle in a game that they very easily could have won.
One play.
So they may have been 3-0 before Cam got COVID. And then that, he missed a few weeks. You don't know how that may have affected him even for a couple of weeks when he came back. So I do think there's things, if you're Cam Newton, that you're thinking about and saying, if I just get these things right, then I can come back and have a much better season. And New England can look at that too. But from their perspective, I don't know if he's going to be available. Obviously, you hear rumors and reports and all of this stuff being talked about. But if they could get Jimmy Garoppolo, that would be my first move if I'm the Patriots, over bringing back a Cam Newton, because I think Jimmy G is a guy they could see as their quarterback for the next 5+ years. And so I think that's an option I would have ahead of Cam if I could get him. Then could you draft a Mac Jones? We heard Devontae Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner, say Mac Jones is better than Tua yesterday. June Jones, a former NFL coach, has said Mac Jones is the best quarterback in the draft, in his opinion. Now, that may sound like foolishness, and it may very well be.
That
I'm just saying,
foolishness.
Mac Jones is a guy
You can't hold. Come
all
on.
right,
Come on.
I'm with you. I'm not saying Mac Jones is the best quarterback in the draft. But all I'm saying is he is a guy that people think could be a quarterback in the NFL. He does have many of the attributes that Belichick would like. He's smart. He's crafty. He's accurate. He's got a solid arm, not an elite arm, but a good arm. And so I'm just saying, look, and if you draft Mac Jones, maybe you bring back Cam to start for another year as Jones learns. So there are a lot of options for them to look at. Essentially what I'm saying is if I'm Cam, yes, I want to go back to New England. That's his best option. If I'm New England, there are 1 or 2 other options I'd rather look at first. And if I can't get those done, then I'm bringing back Cam.
Yeah, you guys keep, and I like Cam Newton. I need to preface all this by saying I'm a big fan. You know what that means.
Oh, no.
I defended Cam here on the show yesterday.
Right.
I'm just like to point out that every time you guys mention how good he was last year, it was in September, early in the season. After that, he was shot. And this is a guy who had shoulder surgery twice. Rotator cuff, throwing shoulder in 2017 and 2019. He's just not the same guy. Is he capable of throwing downfield? I don't know. because Belichick didn't have him throwing downfield because it didn't look like that was in his repertoire at this stage in his game. Again, Cam was used basically as a battering ram last year, guys. If you really watch the Patriots, it was a lot of RPOs, a lot of Cam, bail us out with your legs. You know, he did that against the Cardinals with a nice win. But unfortunately, I don't think he's even an option at this stage for the Patriots. Think about it from this level, LeVar, okay? Bill Belichick just watched his former quarterback, Tom Brady, win a Super Bowl, okay? Now it's proved that, well, Brady can win without Belichick. Can Belichick win without Brady? He tried Cam Newton. It did not work. They did not make the playoffs. If Bill Belichick is looking around the league saying, damn it, Brady just got a Super Bowl, can Cam Newton put me in position to win a Super Bowl? And I think the answer unequivocally is no. And I think you mentioned the name. Jimmy Garoppolo has got to be the guy that Bill Belichick has circled. He drafted him. He molded him. And then the Brady stuff kind of forced Garoppolo out of town. I think Belichick is looking for a quarterback that can get him to the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And unfortunately, Cam is not that guy. And this is not a knock on him. He had a great career. He's a talented winner. I think he could be a serviceable backup for a Buffalo Bills situation with Josh Allen or Kansas City. I'd love to see Cam get a ring, but he ain't going to do it as a starting quarterback in the NFL.
I just think it's crazy. Because here's my thing. When you look at Tom Brady and Tom Brady leaving New England, and I'm Bill Belichick, and I'm like, man, Tom just got a Super Bowl. Look at Tom Brady's team. I'm going to let that sizzle and sink into your spirit for a little bit. Yeah, they were that
Hold on,
good.
LeVar.
They were that good, Chris. Go ahead.
LeVar.
Yes.
That team was 7-9 a year ago.
That
team hadn't made the playoffs in 12, 13 years.
That team is one of the most talented teams from personnel-wise from top to bottom. And you just made my point. The coach has to be able to get everything clicking on the right page. So by him bringing in Tom Brady, he felt as though that was one of the last pieces missing. Bringing in Leonard Fournette was one of the last pieces missing. Bringing in Gronk was one of the last pieces missing to this Tampa Bay team taking that next step. Just because their record said that they weren't an elite team record-wise did not say that they're not an elite team personnel-wise. And sometimes you got to see the difference between the two. When I look at this New England Patriots team, they are not an elite team personnel-wise. In fact, they lost several elite players due to opting out. They lost several or more elite players due to injuries, including Cam. I look at this New England team, and I am not going to put on Mac Brown or any of these other quarterbacks. I'm not going to put it on what's his name?
Mac Jones. Yeah,
Mac Jones. Okay. I'm not putting that on. I'm not putting that on them.
You brought up a good point, okay? And Chris mentioned it. Tampa was 7-9. Okay, when Tom Brady was in his final year with the Patriots, didn't they win 12 or 13 games?
Yeah, they did.
12 and 4.
So why can't Cam Newton come in and keep them to that level?
Because it's not the same team.
I know
he wasn't playing with the same team. You got Patrick Chung not playing. Who's the quarterback cornerback that's about to be
Gilmore played. Gilmore played.
He got hurt. Yeah. Guys were hurt.
Are those guys worth 5-6 wins?
They were letting guys.
They lost 6 guys.
Yes.
They did have the opt-outs. I get that.
I just do not. I think that the way we're judging Cam is not fair to how we're judging some of these other guys and their situations. There should be more of a focus on the team for the New England Patriots. Not just that. Jimmy Garoppolo would have did just as good or just as bad as Cam Newton. Ooh. Any quarterback that would have been at the helm of it. If it's Aaron Rodgers, he would have struggled in that offense because you did not have guys that could get upfield. You did not have guys that could get open. And the guys that could were hurt. And they didn't have a legit running attack. Their offensive line struggled. They had a ton of holes. This was more systematic failure, not Cam failure. And I think that it's dangerous to put the failure on Cam and not where it really belongs, on the inability to have a good team and a good game plan because of personnel. All
right, moving on. The Colts are handing Carson Wentz the keys to their offense after he was benched in favor of rookie Jalen Hurts last season. Eagles traded Wentz and 2 picks, according to reports.
2 picks.
The perception has been growing in the Eagles facility in recent years that Wentz couldn't handle hard coaching. Oof. But that's not the only issue Wentz is facing. He likely won't be wearing the jersey number he's worn since his college days at North Dakota State. Wide receiver Michael Pittman doesn't plan to give up number 11. LeVar,
Now, why should he?
do you think Carson Wentz will resurrect his career in Indy?
Well, first, let me start by saying that isn't the greatest of starts. When your young second-year returning receiver says, I ain't giving up my number to him, that already tells you that he has no strong pimp hand because at the end of the day, no strong hand. We don't need to use that. But here's the thing, right? When Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay, a very established, very well-respected Chris Godwin said, well, gotta give it up. Gotta give it to the GOAT. You know why? Because that's respect. Yep. You're going to go ahead and you're going to pay that respect. You're already seeing that ain't the level of respect that Carson Wentz is coming in here with. Hey, Carson, come in here, get a jersey, and show us you can play. That's what that says to me, first and foremost. Secondly, yes, he can get back on track, but not on track the way that I think a lot of people are hoping or thinking that he may. I think putting him in a position where it's game managing, making sure that you take the pressure off of him to have to be more than what people think he is going to be the reason why he has that type of success. He's not a world-beating quarterback, so do not treat him as though he is. And if you put him in that type of position where he can just manage the games, do what I tell you to do, trust what I'm telling you to do, trust what we're game planning to do, which I think that's what Reich will do, I think that he will have a fine season. I think he'll have a successful season. He's not an MVP guy. He's not MVP of the league. He's not a Pro Bowler, in my opinion. But is he someone that can have a successful year and lead his team to a successful season? Yes, absolutely he can.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, LeVar, on Michael Pittman Jr. I mean, and now they had a conversation and it seemed like it was cordial and fun and it was all love, but just the fact that he wouldn't give him the jersey, and he's only worn number 11 1 year. He was number 6 in college, right? Not like, oh, you know, my dad wore 11
right.
when he played in high school, or that's a special date to me. Like, that was not the greatest of starts. Right, you're right about that. But I'm with you that I definitely think Carson Wentz can turn it around in Indianapolis. I expect him to. I'm not saying get back to MVP level, which he was at in 2017, but I do think he can be a legitimate franchise starting quarterback and over the next several years maybe make some Pro Bowls. I know it's tough in the AFC. They got all those quarterbacks, but I think he can get to a pretty high level. Here's why. Number one, Frank Reich, you mentioned him. We all know now he was the offensive coordinator in Philadelphia when Wentz had that MVP caliber season in 2017. And what people are saying is that when Reich left to coach Indianapolis, Wentz didn't really trust anybody else in the building. He didn't really listen to anybody else on the coaching staff. And so now I think he's got a certain trust of Reich that's going to be reestablished. Secondly, those guys stayed in touch reportedly over the last few years. They share a Christian faith, so they seem to have a good relationship. So I think that will be critical as well. And one thing Reich did was he helped Carson Wentz with his mechanics. From his rookie year to that second year when he played like an MVP, Reich changed his mechanics. And if you watch Wentz last year, a lot of those mechanical errors and flaws that were early in his career resurfaced again last season. So I think that's another thing Reich is going to help him with. You got the running game with Jonathan Taylor, the young guy.
Yes, you
got the receivers, even if they don't bring back T.Y. Hilton. Paris Campbell, if he's healthy, that'll be a big help. They got a top 10 defense. I mean, this is a team that was playoffs with Phillip Rivers. If Wentz can just be a little better than Rivers, they should be a playoff team. Remember, Rivers only got sacked 19 times last year. Wentz got sacked 50 times in Philadelphia in 12 games. 50 times was the league high in just 12 games. So he should have a clean pocket. I know they have to replace their left tackle who retired, but all of those things are set up for Carson Wentz to have some success. So, and success being a solid franchise quarterback type year, get them to the playoffs. I still think they're a second-tier playoff team this year in the AFC, but I think that will be a really good season for Wentz and the Colts.
Uh-oh, I'm on an island here again. Gentlemen, you know, I do a lot of gambling stuff for Fox Sports, and I like to watch the markets. And what happened when Carson Wentz landed in Indy? The markets barely budged, okay? Barely moved. The Colts are tied with the Browns, fourth best odds, okay, to come out of the conference. And that's not a lot of respect to Carson Wentz. And why is that? Well, how did he handle adversity? Okay, LeVar, you played in the NFL. You saw a lot of guys, ups and downs, ebbs and flows. How did Carson Wentz handle adversity last year when he got injured again in the playoff game against Seattle, and then they draft a quarterback in the second round? Carson Wentz essentially pouted the entire season. There were reports that he didn't talk to his coach, his head coach, for 8 to 10 weeks. They just weren't speaking. I can't fathom that. You know, maybe you get in an argument with your wife or your sibling and you don't talk to him for a day or two. How does Carson Wentz not talk to his coach for 8 weeks? Like, this is a guy who moped and his head was down and he pouted. And, there are reports, some really good reports out of the Philadelphia Inquirer, that Carson Wentz just didn't like the play that was being called, so he just said, I'm not doing that. Like, is this the kind of guy you want in Indy? I know maybe he reunites with Frank Reich and they bring back the magic of 2017. Like, Chris, we don't often talk about people and say, hey, man, that guy can be as good as he was 3 years ago. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. Like, again, you said it. The left tackle has to be replaced. T.Y. Hilton, we don't know what the status is. That division is going to get a lot tougher with Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence coming to town. And the Colts stumbled a lot in division last year, 1-5 against the spread in the division, facing a bad Texans team, okay, a pretty bad Jacksonville team that won one game. Like, they just weren't very good in the division. I liked Phillip Rivers last year. Believe it or not, Carson Wentz is a downgrade from old man Phillip Rivers. I like everything I saw out of Rivers last year. He carved up a pretty easy non-conference schedule. Wentz will not have the same coming for him this year. I mean, listen, I'm out, LeVar, on Carson Wentz. I'm sorry. You know, like, listen, everybody loves a redemption story, and maybe Wentz gets it right and doesn't get hurt in Indy, but I'm not buying it. I'm sorry.
It's the balance. And the AFC is tough. It's top-heavy tough. So when you look at what Carson Wentz is stepping into, he struggled. You talked about them 50 sacks he took, 50-plus sacks. He struggled in what was not perceivably, it was the worst division in the league. None of them could win, and you're still struggling. You're going into a situation where you're not going to play against teams where you have the opportunity to be poor and still have a chance to win. So looking at Carson Wentz taking those sacks, I'm not just putting that on the team, Broussard. I'm looking at Carson Wentz and I'm saying, wow, if the team was a part of him getting those 50 sacks because they couldn't block or keep anybody out of the backfield, I'm at least giving 50% of that blame to Carson Wentz as well. So if I'm giving 50% of that blame to Carson Wentz and 50% of that to the team, I'm looking at the Colts, and if I'm Frank Reich and I'm the offense coordinator of this team and I'm the offensive line of this team and I'm the running game of this team, I am saying we have got to make sure that we do not become a predictable, one-dimensional team, because if it comes down to us having to pass, that magnet of getting sacked, I've seen it 100 times. I remember Patrick Ramsey. People won't remember who Patrick Ramsey is, but I played with him in Washington.
Statue, right?
And once he became that magnet for getting sacked, it almost becomes a part of you. It's almost like you embrace it. Like, I don't want to get hit. I don't want to get sacked. I want to be able to stand in and throw the ball. But for some strange reason, you attract it. It's like, it's going to happen. So some of them sacks, that might not be avoidable. So you got to assume that I have to go into this season knowing that we have to figure out how to deal with the bad of Carson Wentz if we are to enjoy and benefit from the good of Carson Wentz.
I would agree, certainly. And it's the same thing with Russell Wilson. I mean, some of those sacks are on these quarterbacks that hold the ball. try to make the hero play and make something out of nothing. I'll give you that. I wouldn't go as high as 50%, but certainly some of that is on Wentz. He'll probably be sacked more than Phillip Rivers. And look, while I expect a turnaround, there are red flags, and you guys have brought some of them up. I have not been in. I have felt like Carson Wentz has lacked the intangibles of a great quarterback. I think the greatest quarterbacks have great physical tools or very good physical tools, but great intangibles. Tom Brady, what makes him the GOAT? The intangibles. Joe Montana, another guy in that conversation. The intangibles, not just their physical ability. And so I do think Wentz has lacked those. You know, there's always reports, J-Mac, you're talking about reports of some of the locker room not liking him, not thinking he listens to guys, thinking he knows it all. But I think, look, if Carson Wentz has not been humbled, then he's never going to be humbled. If he hasn't been humbled by a team that just gave you a $130 million contract, trading you, benching you for a second-round draft pick who's a rookie, if that doesn't humble you, then I don't know what will.
One final
stat. And so I do think that Carson Wentz will be humble enough to go in and with a guy he trusts to listen to Frank Reich and say, rebuild me, help rebuild me. I know I've taken a step back, help rebuild me. And I think that'll be enough with the other pieces around them for him to start to get back to or close to what he used to be.
No mercy. The nail-biter between the Nets and the Clippers on Sunday ended in controversy after Kawhi Leonard was whistled for an offensive foul on James Harden in what turned out to be a game-saving play for the Nets. After the game, a frustrated Paul George said, quote, "It's smart. They control the refs. They got the refs in their pocket. So kudos to the guys who are great at that part of the game." Well, the league is backing the referee's in-game decision, saying the call was correct. Chris, do you think this Clippers team is mentally tough enough to contend this year?
This is clearly a J-Mac manufactured question.
Oh, wow.
Right? But I'll play along, all right? First of all, the league was wrong. That wasn't a good call. James Harden initiated the contact. We always talk about no hand checking today. He was on Kawhi's shoulder like that, and Kawhi kind of just getting him off of him. So I disagree with the league. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it because you play through it, stuff happens. But I think that was a bad call. I'd have liked to have seen them just let them play through it. You brought up Paul George's quote. I noticed you didn't bring up Kawhi Leonard's. Kawhi is the leader of this team. At least he's the best player. That's for darn sure. And Kawhi said, no call, so I guess it was good defense. He's moving on. All right, so this little narrative you want to paint, J-Mac, that the Clippers are crushed mentally, emotionally. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard can't stop thinking about this play and the way the officials have it in for them and all of that. No, stop it. All right, the question was, can they contend? Contend. Not can they or will they win the championship. Can they contend? Are they mentally tough enough to do that? Absolutely. All right, Kawhi Leonard has made the necessary attitude adjustment. He needed it. All right? I thought last year he and the rest of them thought they could step on the court and win because of their talent. Now Kawhi is playing back-to-backs more often. And I know LeBron always plays back-to-backs. Many players do. So I'm not trying to give him flowers for playing back-to-backs. I'm just saying it's emblematic of a different mentality. He hadn't been playing back-to-backs since 2017. So that shows that he's more engaged. He has learned his lesson, if you will, from what happened last year. Montrezl Harrell is gone. He's down the hall in the Lakers locker room. He wasn't a guy that was happy with the way things were going last year. So that's a plus. Serge Ibaka, a locker room guy. I think he's helped their chemistry. On the court, Ty Lue has the ball in Paul George's hands a little more. So he's leading them in assists, being more of a playmaker. I like a lot of the things I'm seeing with the Clippers. They're the best three-point shooting team in the league percentage-wise, and they're the best free throw shooting team in the league percentage-wise, which is huge at the end of games. I'll give you this, J-Mac. the question that we all have is not so much about Kawhi Leonard, I don't think. I mean, I don't see why anybody's questioning his medal. All right, he's got 2 championships. He led Toronto to the championship, beat Embiid, beat Giannis in tough playoff rounds. You want to talk about him struggling last year against Denver? Fine, he did. But I can point to every single player that's a superstar. I can point to a bad moment or stretch in the playoffs, from LeBron to Magic, everybody except the GOAT, Michael Jordan. And so I'm not going to hold that against Kawhi. The guy that's the question mark is Paul George, who's having a great year. 24 points, 5.5 dimes, 6 rebounds, a ridiculous 47% shooting from 3. Great year. But we do have to see him in the playoffs. I'll give you that. He had a great year 2 years ago in Oklahoma City, but we didn't see it in the playoffs. So I'll give you that playoff P or way off P, whatever you want to call him. That's a little bit of a question mark. But remember, he's the second best player, not the first. The second best player. The first player, Kawhi, I got confidence in. So, again, I'm picking the Lakers in the West. But I do think the Clippers are a contender, and I wouldn't be shocked if they were able to upset the Lakers.
Yeah, so mentally tough enough. You know, Chris, back in 3rd grade, I was so good at arguing with my teacher that at parent-teacher night, the teacher said, you know, your son Jason, he might be a lawyer. He's good at arguing. And I like to bring evidence to the table, Chris. And you keep saying that this team's mentally tough enough. I'm looking through the evidence. I got nothing. There is nothing, zero, that shows this Clippers team can contend late in games. They are dead last, Chris, dead last in the NBA in defensive rating in clutch moments this season, meaning final 5 minutes, game is 5 points or less. They rank dead last. They just don't come through in the clutch. We saw it last year, up 3-1 on Denver. What happens, Chris? Leading at halftime of the final 3 games, and they blow it every time. So they fire the coach, and they promote his assistant. Chris, there are contestants on The Bachelor right now that have a better chance at the ring than the LA Clippers do. This team is just not mentally tough enough. And frankly, Chris, I don't think they're good enough, okay? Lou Williams vanishes 4th quarter. He used to be Mr. Clutch for them. You got a better chance of finding him on a milk carton than on the court in the 4th quarter. They don't play him because LeBron and everybody matchup hunts Lou Williams. Where's Luke Kennard, the guy they spent $64 million on, okay? $64 million on Luke Kennard. He don't play in crunch time. They're trotting out Nick Batum, Serge Ibaka. Like, Chris, you're way off on the Clippers here. This team is criminally overrated. LeVar Arrington, I'm sorry to go on the Clippers 2 days in a row, but I'm telling you, man, this team is just so fraudulent right now. They've built up wins against bad teams. I know they beat the Jazz last week. That was a good win. They needed that one. But overall, this team just ain't there.
There are a lot of conversations that surround this Clippers team, some good, some bad. When I look at them, do they have the talent to be able to get far, to be able to win it all? Yes, they do have the talent to be able to do it. Mental toughness, I'm on the fence about it. I really am. I don't want to commit to saying that they have the mental fortitude to be able to go deep into the playoffs and grind it out. It looked as though last year, for some strange reason, whether it was in the bubble, the way the season was interrupted, I'll give them a pass on that. But they disappeared. I didn't see what you would think would be the leadership from Kawhi, the leadership from Paul George, the killer mentality we saw Kawhi have in Toronto when they won the championship. I don't know why that is. It makes me think to myself, where is the leadership as players? A lot of times you look at the teams that have winning seasons. Look, we talk about Tom Brady. He's an ultimate leader first. And you need that as a coach, right? Like, you get rid of Doc Rivers, it's not all on Doc Rivers. You got to have that cohesive unit, and it has to be created by the players. I just don't really I haven't seen that with the Clippers when I watch them. And it just seems like it gets to individuals playing for the wins versus a team. Yep. And so when I look at this Clippers team, talent-wise, yes, they can do it. Mental toughness, that's a whole nother game. And really, that's where you get ahead. When you think about the LeBrons and you think about the Kobes and you think about the MJs, That mental toughness that you saw from them, along with that leadership, is the difference maker. You cannot win in this league without those two factors being present, because there are too many other teams that have those factors present. So to me, I think the verdict is still out on that one. The jury's going to come in, and it's going to be purely based upon the closing arguments of what Paul George and Kawhi Leonard bring to the table, leadership-wise and mental toughness-wise.
That's a great point.
J-Mac, you like to mention that Utah victory for the Clippers as if that's the only good victory they have. They've beaten the Lakers. They've beaten the Nuggets. They've beaten the Jazz, as you mentioned. They've beaten the Trailblazers. They've beaten the Suns. They've beaten every elite team in the West. Now, again, I'm with you. I think the Lakers are a better team. But you talk like the Clippers are the 7th best team in the West. Who's beating them in the playoffs other than the Lakers? I mean, are you talking about why is Denver the 7th seed? Are you talking about why Jamal Murray hasn't, despite the 50-point game he had the other night, hasn't capitalized on what he did in the bubble? They're struggling in Denver. Now, Utah looks good.
They dismissed them
that
last
team
year.
went out in the first round last year.
They dismissed
and we got to
them last
see
year.
what they do in the playoffs. So I'm just saying you're way too hard on the Clippers, and you're missing the boat on them.
Yeah. You remember last year, Chris, we debated this a lot. You kept saying, oh, the Clippers are dogs. They got dogs. They're barking. I mean, Patrick Beverley, his bark is far worse than his bite, okay? That guy is all talk. All he wants to do is get technicals. He can't really play. Remember in the bubble, he was chirping at Damian Lillard, okay? They were laughing at Damian Lillard. Oh, we got you with our backups. And they ended up getting bounced themselves by Jokic. And you can see a big weakness for the Clippers, Chris. Interior defense. They got nothing. Jokic ate them up in that series, okay? Jamal Murray destroyed. I mean, he embarrassed Patrick Beverley. And now you look this year. Well, how are they going to handle Anthony Davis? You know, if they have to face Jokic again, they got no answer for him. And I don't want to hear Serge Ibaka is the guy, okay? He's a good defender. He's an upgrade, certainly, over Harrell. But interior defense worries me. And again, you know, Paul George. Like, listen, LeVar and I were talking about Paul George during the break. LeVar's eyes popped out of his head when he said, wow, Paul George hasn't been to the conference finals since he was in Indy? That was like 4 teams ago, Chris. I refuse to give them, hey, man, they're mentally tough. And even Kawhi Leonard, I'm sorry, the leader of that Toronto team, okay, in the locker room was Kyle Lowry. Go ask anybody, Chris. You talk to a lot of people around the league. Kyle Lowry was the heart and soul. Yeah, Kawhi Leonard was the best player, took the last shot, but Kyle Lowry was the heart and soul of that Toronto team.
Kawhi's not a leader. Yeah. You know, he's a great player. He is their best player. But if any leadership is going to be by example. Right? Okay, I'll give you that. He's not the rah-rah guy. And you jump on Paul George, and again, that's a question mark. We'll see if playoff P shows up. All right, but look, was he supposed to get to the conference finals with Oklahoma City? All right, I was just looking for a series win. You know, I'm not going to hold that against him. Last year, we know what happened. So Indiana wasn't that long ago. I mean, let's keep it real. And he took the big 3 in Miami to 7 games with Roy Hibbert as his running mate. And with all due respect to Roy, because I like Roy, but Roy Hibbert wasn't Chris Bosh, wasn't Dwayne Wade, all right? So I'm just saying, like, look, again, I'm not saying they're the championship favorite, but J-Mac, you're taking it far to an extreme. You still haven't told me which team other than the Lakers is beating them. Are you that impressed with Denver right now?
We said Utah.
Take note, Chris. It's the Jazz.
Let's see what Utah do.
All right,
let's see what Utah. And you brought up interior defense. Other than Utah, who does have interior defense?
Lakers. Anthony Davis.
Maybe
Lakers are number 1 in the league in defensive efficiency, Chris.
What if you don't have Anthony Davis?
Marc Gasol ain't protecting the rim. They missed Dwight and McGee.
Yes.
They missed Dwight and JaVale.
No mercy. Russell Wilson has voiced his frustrations with the Seahawks several times this offseason and has been the subject of trade rumors since. According to Michael Silver, roughly 1/3 of NFL teams have reached out to the Seahawks about the possibility of trading for Russ. But apparently, the starting point in any negotiation would be 3 first-round draft picks. Fox Sports NFL analyst Greg Jennings is now with us. Greg, you starting to think the Seahawks could actually deal Russell Wilson?
There is room for chance. I don't think it will happen this year, simply because this is an organization that has always had a plan going into every season. And unlike the Philadelphia Eagles, eating up all that dead cap money, or that dead money for Carson Wentz in that trade, I just don't see the Seattle Seahawks doing the same just to please Russell Wilson and then to get whatever they get in return. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't listen and field offers. Everyone's tradable, but there comes a point in time when you're trying to do something special. And as an organization, the Seattle Seahawks has always prided themselves into being a playoff team. And Russell Wilson gives them the best chance at doing that and repeating that success or stacking that success, if you will. And so regardless of how unhappy or what Russell Wilson's desires to have are, I believe that they will try to meet somewhere in the center and make a compromise to where Russell Wilson is getting what he feels he should get as far as the support from the organization. But by no means does that mean they're going to field all these offers and just say, yep, Russell, you can go wherever you want. We'll eat this dead cap. And no, that's not how it works in Seattle. That's never how it works in Seattle. And so for that reason and that reason alone, I don't see Russell Wilson in any other uniform this year other than the Seattle Seahawks uniform.
While I agree with your reasoning, G&J, I got to say it is more than possible that this could take place. Let's not forget the Jamal Adams trade. So they don't have a first-round draft pick in 21 and 22 draft. So if I can get me 3 first-round draft picks out of this situation, knowing that I have some young pieces in place, most notably DK Metcalf, if I would have to, I guess, hit the detonate button on rebuilding for the future for this Seattle Seahawks team, I don't see that being the worst decision ever if you get 3 first-round draft picks and have to figure it out this year, knowing that you unloaded the amount of money that's connected to Russell Wilson, and you're getting the opportunity to possibly replace it with either tradeaways, so you could get more picks off of that, those 1 picks, or you could get a player that can actually help transform your team. They hit with DK Metcalf. If you are able to trade for a quarterback that is serviceable until you develop a draftee, I look at it like it's more sensible actually where we're at right now, just purely based upon the position that possibly Russell Wilson put them in by making it public knowledge that he wanted more of a say, that he may not be totally happy with the decisions that are being made. So not based off of maybe their initial want, but what the given situation and scenario is that's present right now, I don't see it being egregious at all to see the Seattle Seahawks take a good, long, hard look at if they could get 3 first-round draft picks to not, entertain that.
I see it as egregious, LeVar.
Okay.
Unless Russell Wilson goes into their front office and says, I want to be traded, trade me, then they shouldn't even be thinking about trading Russell Wilson. They have got a franchise quarterback, a future Hall of Fame quarterback, a Super Bowl winning quarterback who's 32 years old. And they're thinking about trading him? That's ridiculous. All right, when was there? Think of it. They have a better chance of improving the offensive line, of improving the defense than they do of getting another franchise quarterback. You know when their last franchise quarterback was? Before Russell? Oh, there wasn't
Jim
one.
Zorn.
Unless you consider Jim Zorn a franchise quarterback. That's how long it takes. And now you have him. This guy can be there for the next 10 years. And here's what Seattle has to fight against. Complacency. Because I think part of Russ's frustration is that he feels like they're complacent. They're satisfied just being relevant. Just being a perennial playoff team in the hunt. And they know that they've got these awesome fans who, as long as you're 10-6, 11-5, 12-4 every now and then, and thought of as a Super Bowl contender, those fans are going to be there in droves and they're going to be raucous. But Russ is saying, no, I'm not satisfied, and I don't want us to be satisfied. So they should not be thinking about trading Russell Wilson. Yeah, you can get your 3 first-round picks, but is that going to guarantee you a franchise quarterback?
Can I ask a question?
Around him.
Can I ask y'all a question? I want to jump in on y'all, and I want to ask y'all this question. We look at Russell Wilson, and no doubt he is a franchise quarterback, undoubtedly. But when you look at the most success that this team has had, and when they were dominant as a team,
I know what's coming.
You did not need a franchise quarterback to operate that team. You needed a guy who could hand the ball off, and you needed to watch your defense. You needed to not hurt your team because your defense was going to win the games for you, and your running game was going to make it easier for your quarterback to make serviceable throws. And if they made just halfway decent decisions, if Russell Wilson made halfway decent decisions, they were going to be fine because their running game was so significantly strong. So I ask you, if I could recreate that, and I look at what you did to get Jamal Adams, says to me that you're thinking about what you had in the old days, trying to bring in the running backs that you brought in, Hyde and those guys in the offseason. It says to me that you're thinking about going back to that old formula. I don't think that's egregious. You got to tell me, like, J-Mac, Chris?
Hold on. Spoken like a true defensive player.
Well,
Giving all the credit to the Legion of Boom.
It's just the truth.
By the way, Tom Brady torched them in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, up and down the field twice for touchdowns. Nevertheless,
and still
you
should have
cannot
lost.
move on from Russell Wilson. Greg, I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised. You played with Aaron Rodgers. You saw what y'all had with Brett Favre. Green Bay has had franchise quarterbacks for, 30 years now. My Jets never had one, okay? You lose Russell Wilson in Seattle, good luck finding another one. Look at Miami. Dan Marino leaves. Franchise quarterback, great there for 15 years. They can't find anybody. 20 years running, the Dolphins can't find a franchise quarterback. A couple things in life, when you find a great one, you just hold on. Find a great wife. You gotta do everything to keep her. You find a good barber. Look at LeVar's hair. Look at money today, by the way, okay? You hold on to it. You find a franchise quarterback. Greg Jennings, you do not let him out the door. I don't want 4 first-round picks for Russell Wilson. He's untouchable. Bye. Wow. Talk to the hand. I'm hanging up the phone. There's no deal. Wow. I'm not giving up Russell Wilson. No way.
That's not reality.
Well, you're right, LeVar. That is not reality. That's not reality. But for me, and I don't think it's egregious. I'm not saying that it would. That's the case at all.
These basketball dudes, man. Thank you very much.
However, I just don't believe that is as easy and as simple as we make it appear.
No, I agree with that.
Make it sound.
I agree with that.
Like, there's to Jason's point, like, you can't go out and just find a Russell Wilson. I'm not talking to Russell Wilson that we see to date. I'm talking to Russell Wilson that we saw coming out of college. The Russell Wilson that has the type of character, the type of leadership skills, the type of ability to where he can just hold down the fort until he comes to the point where he's mature in his ability. It's not as easy as we make it seem. And then when you talk about them trying to go back to what garnered their success or what rendered them some success early in his career, the Legion of Boom, let's not discredit how special those individuals were. And that we think that they're easy to find. Like, I get it, LeVar, you can find some great quality guys, but a shutdown corner like Richard Sherman is hard to find. Teams just don't have that guy. Even safeties, as great as Jamal Adams is, he's not what Earl Thomas was for that team. He's just not.
Well, give it some time. Completely different players. I hear you. And I mean, Earl Thomas needs a Cam Chancellor. So, I mean, it plays back. So I agree with you. I agree with you on that. But again, I just will say this. All those things given, I understand. But this is a very interesting stat. In NFL history, no one has been sacked more in their first 9 seasons than Russell Wilson. If that doesn't give you grounds for pause to actually entertain it, if I can get 3 first-rounders knowing that there's a possibility that one of these hits, it happened to one of the most elusive, greatest running quarterbacks of all time, and Mike Vick. It takes one time to get hit. Look at what happened to RG3. It takes one time to get hit, and then you know what happens? All that value goes away. And you're sitting there like, yeah, I did have rest in the hand, but man, I had 3 in the bush that I could have had, and I held on to the one that was in the hand because of all this reasoning y'all giving. I just don't think it's egregious to think it through and maybe get 3 first-round draft picks for Russell Wilson. I think that's sensible. That's all I'm saying.
MVP in October, we're trading him in February. No mercy. Before yesterday, the Lakers hadn't lost 3 consecutive games since August. But the Lakers continue to struggle without AD. And last night, the Wizards stormed back from a 17-point deficit in the second half to defeat the Lakers in OT. With 9 seconds left in regulation, LeBron missed a go-ahead free throw on a 3-point play opportunity. LeBron played all but 1 minute and 6 seconds of the fourth quarter and OT. And after the game, he said, quote, I think this whole narrative of LeBron needs more rest, or should I take more rest, or should take him out here, it's become a lot bigger than what it actually is. I've never talked about it. I don't talk about it. I don't believe in it. Fox Sports NBA analyst Ric Bucher joining us now. Rick, is LeBron losing his MVP case during this 3-game slide?
For sure he's losing it. Now, has he lost it? No. As you guys have mentioned, there's still plenty of time to regain it. But the good news is that whatever he's losing in the MVP race, he's probably gaining in the most trolled player race. I would venture to guess that he leapfrogged Steph Curry in that battle after last night's game, because it wasn't just a missed free throw. It was the clank 3 that could have tied things up. It was blowing the assignment on Russell Westbrook and then compounding it by fouling him. If Russell Westbrook doesn't miss his free throw, he's essentially iced that game on the drive and the foul by LeBron that didn't stop him from scoring the bucket. And yes, it's only 1 game and it's in February, but these kind of games leave a mark because of the comedy of errors and the way it was lost at the end. Now, the problem that LeBron faces right now is that he's stuck. He's well aware that it's been 8 years since he's won an MVP, and I'm told that he does indeed want to win a league MVP, that would be another jewel in the crown that makes his case that he's the best player that's ever played the game. The problem that he has is, in those 8 years, a factor in his not getting it has been that he's taken time off. I have no idea what he's talking about. Like, I don't believe in it. I don't do it. Like, he went to Miami for a week in the middle of a season when he was in Cleveland at one point. What are you talking about? We don't have selective memory. So he's trying to make the point, I'm not tired. I don't need time off. But the reality is, everybody's talking about it because he looks tired. It's not just that he's playing heavy minutes, but he's not playing with the same energy. He didn't chase J-Mac. He didn't chase Russell Westbrook around the entire game, okay? Defensively, he's giving minimal effort there. But he's with a Lakers team that counts on him doing a tremendous amount and expending a tremendous amount of energy at the offensive end. He's essentially the only guy who can make plays for others and the only guy who can get to the rim and make a shot. So he's stuck, though. He really does need rest. He needs to dial it down. But if he does that, it is going to impair his MVP chances as it has in the past, and especially coming off of a game like the game that we saw last night against the Wizards.
Go ahead, bro. I'm with you, Rick. And look, he's still very much in the race. I mean, there's 40 games left to go. 2 of the other candidates, Joel Embiid and Kawhi Leonard, have missed a decent number of games, 6 and 7 games. Will they miss more? So he's in the race. But a week ago, many people had him out front. I had him out front. And it's going back and forth between him and Embiid. But he's no longer out front. He is now in the pack with the rest of the guys. Now, here's one thing that's working in his favor, Rick. This is an odd year, it seems, for MVP candidates. Giannis, Milwaukee's not winning enough games, right? So he's hurting it. His chances aren't great. Nikola
He's not
Jokic,
getting
he's
3 in a
having
row
a
anyway.
phenomenal.
Nobody's giving him 3 in a row.
Right. Not after the playoff failures as well. But Nikola Jokic having a wonderful individual season. They're the 7th seed. He's not getting it as the 7th seed. Dame Lillard, Steph Curry playing great, but are they winning enough? You know, Joel Embiid and Kawhi, as I said, I think Embiid is the front runner right now, but they have missed a lot of games. If he ends up missing 20 games in a 72-game season, that will hurt his chances. Same thing with Kawhi. So while LeBron has come back to the pack, just the landscape right now, you know, Utah's having a great year, but nobody views Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert, any of those guys, as MVP candidates. So that's the thing that's helping LeBron's case, is that it is a wide open race right now, and he's still very much alive.
Yeah, you guys are also forgetting that the Nets are on fire currently. They're about to get Kevin Durant back in a week. They're going to pass Joel Embiid and the Sixers. So Embiid will come back to the pack because he's missing games, and they no longer can claim we got the best record in the East. I just think, Rick, you might have been a little harsh on LeBron. 31-13-9 in a loss.
Stop it with
and
the
we're killing
numbers.
him.
Thank you.
He's doing everything, Rick.
If you're an MVP, you win the game. It's winning time. You get it done in crunch time. I have a great look. Russell Westbrook won an MVP because he averaged a triple-double. Okay, fine. That's the exception, not the rule. You need to win games, and people are going to watch how games are finished and whether you're that closer. It's always been the criticism of LeBron when the measure is Jordan or Kobe. And so he can't afford to slip in that category, especially with AD out. That's just the reality.
He can't afford to slip. He can't miss a free throw.
I think that's sad. Slicks, you my guy, but I can't go with you on that. He was 1 point away from that. One one rebound away from having that triple-double in an overtime loss. Now, I get the finishing point. But if we're going to focus
in on... We are talking about playing the Washington Wizards.
Yeah, but they have 2 players. But they have 2 players.
The Sixers. We're talking about the Washington Wizards.
They have 2 players. They have 2 prolific scorers on that team in Bill and Mr. Westbrook. I don't think we should just sneeze at the Washington Wizards. We should pay attention to the Washington Wizards, by the way. They're an improving team with some stars. But again, I look at LeBron and I say to myself, LeBron is playing the minutes. We know he's playing the minutes. Everybody wants to make him tired. Everybody wants to say he needs this time and different. I get all that. I think that maybe the loss is what is the biggest thing that pulls away from pushing him forward towards that MVP race voting deal and popularity of it. But the man almost had a triple-double. He's putting up production. He's putting up points. If you put those numbers and those stats on Kawhi Leonard, what are we saying right now? If we put those stats on somebody else that's in the race, if Harden put those numbers up, what are we saying right now? So the only reason why we're taking away from LeBron James right now is based upon them losing this game. Then all I would say is they have to figure out a way to win. But I don't think that that's necessarily focused in on why LeBron isn't the MVP of this team, because his stats say he did everything humanly possible for them to win the game.
Well, LeVar, I will say this. That is an issue here. Guys don't win MVP in a prism. Like, the fact that this team may not be good enough around him, that he has to do too much, or that they can't win. I mean, Marc Gasol missed 2 big free throws. Not a factor. Montrezl Harrell, not a factor. He needs help from these other pieces, and he's not getting it. And that's not on LeBron, but the truth is, your team, again, Westbrook and the triple-doubles as the exception, you generally need a team around you that plays well enough that you don't have to do everything.
No mercy. On Saturday, the former 2-time super middleweight world champion Anthony the Dog Durrell returns and will face off against the rising Chiron Shut It Down Davis. Don't miss the action Saturday on Fox and the Fox Sports app. The nail-biter between the Nets and Clippers on Sunday ended in controversy after Kawhi Leonard was whistled for an offensive foul on James Harden and what turned out to be the game-saving play for the Nets. Afterward, a frustrated Paul Pierce said, quote, "It's smart. They control the refs. They got the refs in their pocket. So kudos to the guys who are great at that part of the game." Well, the league is backing the referee's in-game decision, saying the call was correct. Ric Bucher, you think this Clippers team is mentally tough enough to contend this year?
I do, and it feels good to be back to beat up J Mac Day as opposed to beat up Chris Broussard Day. It feels like the universe is back on its axis the way it's supposed to be. I certainly believe that they are mentally tough enough, and I don't believe that their issues with the call are a reflection that they're not. Fact of the matter is, the referee who made the call, and again, I heard you earlier, Chris, I agree with you. I don't care what the league says. The referee who made the call could not see the contact. He was looking from the baseline. And I know he checked with the other referee before he made the call, but ultimately, he's the one who whistled it. He couldn't see the contact. He was guessing. And they tell the referees, do not guess on these. Look at the baseline call. Who's the referee who makes the call? Now, he glances at the other guy, but he can't see it. He's looking through James Harden's back. It's impossible for him to call that correctly. That said, I don't believe that it's mental toughness that's going to determine how the Clippers season goes. It's going to be selflessness. And that specifically when it comes to Kawhi Leonard, because what I've seen with them so far, and saw it in their meltdowns in the bubble, is that when they play through Kawhi Leonard, they play too slow. And as LeVar mentioned earlier, like it becomes too predictable. It's almost like take a number, it's my turn, now it's your turn. The offense flows much, much better when they play through Paul George. And so Kawhi Leonard, if he wants to win again, he needs to get back to that lunch pail mentality that he had in San Antonio and even at times in Toronto, where it's, I'm going to be the claw. J-Mac, you talked about their issues closing games and defensively closing games. Big reason is that Kawhi Leonard accepts switches all too easily. There's not even a screen set. The guys just pass, and Kawhi passes off the most difficult offensive player to guard. I want Kawhi Leonard utilizing his defensive ability and concede that the offense is better run through Paul George. I don't know if he's willing to do that because, as we've seen with so many stars, LeBron went through the same thing. I think KD is looking for the same thing in Brooklyn. Oh, so I've won rings, but I won rings by somebody else's design. It was their blueprint. I want to go win a ring, and I want to do it my way. Well, my way is not necessarily the best way. And I think for this Clippers team, they need to shift some roles and accept that if they're going to get the most out of what they have. I don't know if they have enough to get it done, but that has to happen if they're going to have any chance.
J-Mac, go ahead since he called you out.
Well, no, I mean, listen, Rick, I understand what you're saying. I guess my issue would be, Montrezl Harrell left town, and then all of a sudden you hear the stories about, well, listen, this team didn't want to practice last year. They adjusted everything to cater to their stars, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And that grit and grind narrative they tried to build, remember, with Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell a couple years ago, that's out the window. What is the identity, Rick, right now of the LA Clippers? Like, you can't tell me what it is because they don't have one. This is a team right now that's kind of like, hey, as you said, let's throw it to Kawhi Leonard. Let's do slow on offense. Last year, the identity was supposed to be, they're dogs. We're gonna stop you. And I gave out the number. They're dead last in defensive rating in the clutch minutes this year in the NBA, worse than everyone. Like, what is their identity? What is the Clippers' identity?
But let's not forget that we had the shutdown for 3 months, and then Montrezl Harrell had some personal issues with his grandmother dying, that when he came back, he's an energy guy, and he was clearly out of shape. He was not a factor for the team in the bubble, and maybe that whole grit and grind reputation was a little fugazi. It wasn't legit. I like this team and its composition much better than I do last year. Serge Ibaka is an upgrade from Montrezl Harrell. He's experienced. He's more skilled. He's more level-headed. He doesn't play on emotion the way Montrez does. And I believe that Luke Kennard is a huge, huge upgrade from Landry Shamet. Landry Shamet was knocking down shots left and right until you got to pressure situations. You can count on Kennard, or at least they've been able to so far, in terms of having up and down minutes, but being ready to knock them down when you ask him to play that role. So, again, I don't know if they're good enough ultimately to get it done. And you make a fair point. Like, I don't know what their, what their brand is at this point. But I do like the composition, and I do like the fact that last year everybody anointed them from the very beginning. When Kawhi and Paul George got there, they were suddenly the team to beat, and they hadn't accomplished anything. And they seem to be reading those press clippings. They seem to believe that themselves without having to prove it. Now they're in a different category. Now everybody, no matter what they do, is going to doubt them till the very end. And I believe that that's going to work to their advantage.
They don't. Their brand is a finesse team with a lack of leadership. That's what it is. And what that looks like in terms of mental toughness, that verdict is still out. But again, if you're going to be a finesse team, I think of the Houston Rockets. They were a finesse team. Clyde Drexler, finesse. Hakeem the Dream, finesse. But you had Mario Elie. You had Vernon Maxwell. You had some dogs out there that were really willing to get dirty with it. I don't see that with this Clippers team. And I don't see the leadership that you would have saw from Clyde Drexler or from Hakeem Olajuwon. This is a team that is a finesse team that doesn't have dogs to go with their finesse and doesn't have leadership. Chris?
I think one thing you guys are doing, the detractors, LeVar and J Mac, you're looking at what happened in the bubble against Denver as that's who they are.
Okay.
And granted, that happened. They dropped that 3-1 lead. There's no doubt about it. They didn't want to be in the bubble, but that should not stain them and define them going forward. We've seen, Steph Curry dropped the 3-1 lead. Kevin Durant dropped the 3-1 lead. James Harden has dropped the 3-1 lead. We've seen LeBron struggle at times in the finals. We saw Magic Johnson. Like, I can point to virtually everyone who had moments like Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers had during the bubble last year against Denver. So I'm not going to define them by that. I think they have the opportunity to change that narrative.
No mercy. DeMarcus Cousins never got a chance to take the court for the Lakers last season, but the opportunity may be presenting itself again. Lakers are waiving Quinn Cook, which will open up a roster spot. Since Boogie is reportedly parting ways with Houston, the Lakers may be interested. Rick, should LA go after Boogie Cousins?
1,000% yes, they should. We've talked about this. What was their formula for winning in the bubble last year? It was playing big. What have they been unable to do this year? Play big. Marc Gasol has not been anything close to what they anticipated that he would be. And even with Mark, after that, Montrezl Harrell is not playing big. They've had to play small ball. The issue with playing small ball is that you have to play fast. LeBron James doesn't want to play fast at age 36. So they have this inherent conflict in what they have and the way they want to play, or at least the way LeBron wants to play. DeMarcus, they know who he is. He's got a relationship with LeBron. He's got a relationship with AD. He spent plenty of time there. He's a known quantity to them. Is it enough? Is it going to make the difference? I don't know. But there are very few places where you invite Cousins in and don't worry about what the overall impact might be. The Lakers are not one of those places, and they could certainly use him.
I know, Rick, it won't make the difference. All right, but look, you can go at him. That's fine. But look at all these highlights. What's he doing? He's shooting threes. All right, he doesn't play that big. He might grab you an extra rebound. He still can rebound the basketball. But we know he's not much of a defender. And he's not a rim protector. He's going to be out there launching threes and kind of playing his lazy game. I mean, that's just what he does. Brooklyn, do they want to get him? I think he and Harden would get past the little skirmish they had in Houston with the way Harden left. Brooklyn's a place that might even need him more than the Lakers. He's not a difference maker wherever he goes, but I think in Brooklyn he could be a big body that they could throw out there on people. But his days of making a huge difference are over.
Yeah, I'm out on him. LeVar, any thoughts?
Yeah. Injuries scare me on it. It just is what it is, but wish him luck.
Rick, let's be honest. Lakers need a wing player, somebody to create. Without Schroeder, they're hurting on the wing, right?
Price is right on Boogie. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. All right, that's it for us, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Coming up now, The Herd with Colin.